The war had raged for centuries, a brutal clash between humanity and a relentless alien coalition that seemed to grow stronger with each passing decade. The humans fought valiantly, but their resources were dwindling, and the alien alliance showed no signs of slowing down. The final battle was nearing, and humanity's hope was but a dying ember. On a barren, decimated world, once a thriving hub of human civilization, Commander Rhea Solis stood at the edge of the main command center, her eyes fixed on the distant horizon. Smoke rose from the ruins of a city that had once boasted billions of people, now reduced to a hollow reminder of what had been lost. Her fingers curled around the metal railing, a silent gesture of defiance. The enemy was closing in, and every piece of technology left in humanity's arsenal was a relic, outdated and ineffective against the alien onslaught. She had already made peace with the fact that this was it, the last stronghold, the final stand. But just as she was about to turn away from the battlefield, something caught her eye, a flicker of movement beneath the ground. It wasn't a natural phenomenon, not an aftershock or a tremor caused by the war. It was something else, something ancient. "Commander, you need to see this," said Lieutenant Vargas, a young officer who had been assigned to her command. His voice was sharp, laced with a sense of urgency. He was at the data terminal, a few meters away, his fingers flying across the holographic screen. Rhea stepped closer. The map on the screen showed an underground complex, one that hadn't appeared in any of their reconnaissance reports. It was buried beneath the city ruins, hidden from the prying eyes of enemy surveillance. "What is it?" Rhea asked, narrowing her eyes. Her mind raced through the possibilities. Was this another alien trap? A weapon designed to wipe them out? "I don't know, but the readings are off the charts. It's emitting some sort of energy signature, something I've never seen before," Vargas said, eyes wide with disbelief. "Whatever it is, it's human-made." "Human-made," Rhea repeated, her pulse quickening. Humanity had no more advanced weapons to speak of, only desperate, last-ditch efforts to slow down the alien forces. Yet here was something buried deep under the earth, forgotten by time. The thought of finding anything of human origin still intact in this war-torn landscape seemed impossible. Rhea made a snap decision. "Prepare a team. We're going in." The underground bunker was hidden beneath the twisted remains of a city that had once flourished. As they made their way through crumbling corridors and past rotting infrastructure, the weight of time seemed to bear down on them. The walls of the bunker were smooth, metallic, and eerily pristine, as if untouched by centuries of neglect. The air smelled stale, but there was an undeniable feeling that something monumental lay ahead. They finally arrived at a massive set of reinforced doors, sealed tight. The strange energy readings were strongest here, pulsing with a rhythmic thrum. Rhea felt a chill run down her spine, and for the first time in months, she felt a spark of something she had almost forgotten: hope. "Can you open it?" she asked Vargas, who immediately began working on the complex console beside the door. His fingers danced over the controls, frustration mounting as the lock mechanism refused to yield. "It's an old system. Looks like something from the pre-war days," he muttered. "It's asking for a specific signal. We need to match its code. It could take a while." Rhea stepped forward, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Do it." Just as Vargas was about to speak again, the ground beneath them trembled violently. A distant rumble echoed through the corridors, a reminder that the enemy was fast approaching. But it wasn't just any rumble. The pulse of the ground seemed to resonate with the energy signature coming from the bunker. And then, with a sudden, resounding hum, the massive doors slid open, revealing the truth that had been hidden beneath the ruins. Inside was not a weapons cache or an experimental facility, but something far more unexpected. The entire room stretched for what seemed like miles, a massive hangar. And at the center, resting upon a platform of unknown origin, lay the Crimson Phoenix, an enormous warship, sleek and powerful, but unlike any ship humanity had ever built. Its hull gleamed with an otherworldly sheen, and a strange, pulsating energy radiated from it, casting an ethereal red glow over everything in sight. The Phoenix had been waiting. Rhea's heart pounded in her chest as she stepped closer, her mind racing. This was no ordinary ship. It was something far more advanced than anything humanity had ever created. The legend long thought to be myth. The ship's sheer presence was enough to stir something deep within her, an ancient connection to the past. This was no weapon of war, no mere machine of destruction. It was something more, the last hope of a dying race. As the crew slowly filed in behind her, staring in awe at the ship, Rhea felt a strange surge of energy pulse through her. And then, as if in response to her thoughts, the ship's lights flickered to life. It wasn't just a ship, it was alive. The Crimson Phoenix had awoken. The hum of the Phoenix's systems filled the massive hangar, echoing off the walls like the heartbeat of a giant. It pulsed with a strange energy that seemed to resonate deep within Rhea's soulless bones, stirring something primal within her. The ship, no creature, was more than just a vessel. It was alive, in a way that defied everything she understood about technology. Rhea stood still for a moment, absorbing the sight of the Crimson Phoenix. Her team had gathered around her, awestruck and silent. The ship, massive and sleek, gleamed beneath the faint glow of its internal lights, its surface reflective like a mirror. Yet it exuded an otherworldly aura that felt almost sentient. The feeling of being watched was unmistakable. What is this thing? Lieutenant Vargas asked, his voice barely above a whisper. I don't know, Rhea replied, her eyes never leaving the ship. But it's humanity's last hope. The ship's engines thrummed, as if in response to Rhea's words, and a soft voice echoed through the hangar. It wasn't mechanical, but rich and almost melodic, unnervingly human. Who calls me? The voice was not of the ship's AI, but something more profound. The Phoenix was a relic from an ancient human civilization, far beyond the reach of their current technology. Rhea's heart skipped a beat as she realized they were communicating with something more than just an automated system. This was alive. Vargas stepped forward, still in disbelief. Did it just speak? Yes, Rhea replied, her voice steady despite the torrent of questions racing through her mind. It's waiting for us. Suddenly, a series of soft chimes rang out, and the ship's holographic interface sprang to life in front of them. A brilliant blue map materialized in midair, showing star systems, coordinates, and what appeared to be advanced battle plans. The map's scope was beyond anything humanity had ever known. This ship, this Phoenix, was ancient, its data spanning back to a time long before humanity's war with the aliens began. Rhea stepped forward, her fingers tracing the holographic display. As she did, the ship responded, shifting the map to show the location of the nearest alien fleet. The information was precise, detailed, almost prophetic. What is this? Vargas asked, eyes wide. It's a guide, Rhea said slowly. The Phoenix isn't just a weapon, it's a strategic command ship. This isn't just about firepower. It's about intelligence, tactics, something we've lost over the years. The Phoenix, it can see the future of the war. The voice echoed again, this time more forcefully. The war is not over. The Phoenix will guide you, but it requires the blood of those who will fight. Will you pay the price for victory? The crew stood frozen. The words hit Rhea like a shockwave. She understood them instinctively. There was no turning back. The Phoenix was not a tool that could be wielded by just anyone. It demanded sacrifice, a commitment that went beyond simple victory. It required their will to survive. Rhea turned to face her team. We have to be ready for what comes next. We've seen how badly we're losing, but with this, we have a chance. A real one. We can't waste it. Are we sure we can control it? Vargas asked. What if it's too much for us? I don't think we have a choice, Rhea said, her voice hardening with resolve. This ship, it's alive, just like we are. We have to trust it, and it has to trust us. The crew exchanged uneasy glances, but Rhea could see the spark of hope beginning to light in their eyes. They had been fighting a losing battle for too long, and now they were holding in their hands the key to turning the tide. They had no time to question the Phoenix's sentience. They had to learn to wield it. The ship responded again, its voice softer this time, almost soothing. "I have waited for you, Commander Solus. You and your crew will awaken the blood of heroes." "Blood of heroes," Rhea murmured. The phrase seemed both haunting and empowering. It felt like a challenge, one that called to something deep inside her. She understood what it meant. To awaken the Phoenix's full potential, they would need more than just tactical brilliance. They would need the strength of will that had carried humanity through countless wars, a determination that could not be broken. The map shifted again, showing more detailed readings. Alien fleets, hidden bases, weapon caches. The Phoenix knew where their enemies were before they did. It was a tool unlike any they had ever imagined, but with its power came a price. Rhea felt the ship's presence wash over her, as though it were watching her, no, feeling her. She glanced at her team, the weight of the decision heavy in the air. "We don't have much time," Rhea said, steeling herself. "We need to be prepared to make the sacrifices the Phoenix demands of us. The war isn't just about us anymore. It's about the future of all humanity." As the ship's engines began to hum louder, a soft, crimson glow began to emanate from its hull. The Phoenix was ready, and with it, the fate of humanity. But as Rhea looked into its depths, she knew this was only the beginning. The path ahead would be one of blood and fire, and not all would survive. Yet, in that moment, the last of humanity's hope stood ready to rise from the ashes of their destruction. "Prepare yourselves," Rhea said. "The Phoenix has awoken, and we are about to burn brighter than ever before." The transformation of the Crimson Phoenix was nothing short of miraculous. In just a matter of hours, the once dormant warship had become a living force of nature. Its vast systems hummed with energy, its weaponry recharged and ready to devastate entire fleets. But more than that, it had become an extension of its crew. The bond between the ship and those who had awakened it was undeniable. A strange, almost telepathic connection, one that seemed to grow with each passing moment. Rhea Solus stood before the command interface, her hand steady on the controls. She could feel the Phoenix as though it were an extension of her own body. Every movement, every command was instinctual. The ship responded to her thoughts, her emotions, almost as if it had a mind of its own. She glanced around at her team, each of them now bonded to the ship in ways they didn't fully understand. They were more than just soldiers. They were conduits for the Phoenix's power. "Targeting systems online," Lieutenant Vargas reported, his eyes scanning the data screens. "We've identified the enemy's fleet. They're close, real close. It's a full assault on our last stronghold. If we don't act now, we'll be wiped out." Rhea didn't hesitate. "Prepare for launch," she ordered, her voice firm and unwavering. "All systems at maximum." The Phoenix responded immediately. Its engines roared to life, sending shockwaves through the hangar as it began to lift off the ground. The hull shimmered with crimson light as the ship broke free of the bunker's confinement, ascending into the sky above the ruined city. Rhea's heart raced as they shot through the atmosphere, the force of the launch nearly pushing her back into her seat. The sight of the battlefield ahead, an endless expanse of alien warships and scattered human remnants, was overwhelming. The odds were stacked against them, but for the first time in years, Rhea felt something other than despair. She felt the thrill of possibility. "This is it," Vargas said, his voice taut with excitement. No turning back now. The Phoenix streaked through the black void, heading straight for the heart of the alien fleet. As they neared the first wave of enemy ships, Rhea's mind sharpened, focused entirely on the battle ahead. She could feel the Phoenix sensing with her, its systems responding not just to her commands, but to her thoughts and instincts. The ship was alive, and it could anticipate her every move. "Enemy ships on the radar," Vargas reported. They're deploying interceptors. No sign of the flagship yet, but it's gotta be here somewhere. I can feel it, Rhea muttered under her breath. The sensation was hard to explain, but it was as if the Phoenix could sense the enemy's movements before they even happened. It was as though she were in the mind of the ship, feeling its pulse, its desire to fight. Locking onto targets, Vargas said, opening fire. The Phoenix's weapon systems activated with a roar. Energy beams, as bright as stars, shot out from its cannons, tearing through enemy ships with surgical precision. Each strike was accompanied by the bone-shaking sound of destruction. It was as though the Phoenix was not just destroying the enemy, it was eradicating their will to fight. The ship's attacks were brutal and unforgiving, leaving trails of burning debris in their wake. Rhea didn't hesitate. As the first wave of alien ships disintegrated in front of her, she steered the Phoenix directly into the heart of the enemy's formation. She could feel the ship's bloodlust growing, a hunger for destruction that matched her own. But as they plunged deeper into the chaos, something unexpected happened. A massive alien ship, far larger than anything Rhea had encountered, emerged from the shadows. Its sleek, jagged form sent a chill down her spine. This wasn't just another cruiser. This was Zhor's flagship, the warlord who had led the alien coalition for centuries. Rhea's grip tightened on the controls. This was it, the final confrontation. Zhor, Rhea whispered to herself. The name felt like a curse on her lips. The alien warlord had been a constant thorn in humanity's side, but now he was finally here, standing between them and victory. Target the flagship, Rhea commanded, her voice cold with resolve. All weapons, fire. The Phoenix responded with terrifying efficiency. Its weapons unleashed a wave of destruction, but Zhor's flagship was no ordinary target. It seemed to absorb the blows, its hull regenerating almost as quickly as the Phoenix could inflict damage. Rhea's heart pounded in her chest as she felt the Phoenix's frustration. It was as if the ship itself understood the significance of this moment. The battle was no longer just about victory. It was about the end of the war, the culmination of centuries of bloodshed. The Phoenix was feeding off her emotions, becoming stronger with every pulse of adrenaline. Zhor's voice boomed across the comms, distorted and chilling. You think you can defeat me with your pathetic weapon? The Phoenix is nothing but a relic. I will see it burned, as I have seen everything else. Rhea gritted her teeth. This relic will burn you first. The Phoenix surged forward, its engines pushing them faster than they had ever flown before. They slammed into the alien flagship's defenses, pushing through layers of energy shields. As Rhea's hands moved across the controls, the Phoenix responded with an intensity that was almost terrifying. It was as if it had been waiting for this moment, this confrontation. The war was far from over, but the Phoenix was ready to make its mark on history. In that moment, Rhea knew one thing for sure. The Phoenix wasn't just a weapon. It was humanity's blood, its heart, its last chance. And with it, they were going to burn through the darkness. The Phoenix's hull shuddered as it collided with Zhor's flagship, its weapons firing on all cylinders in a violent surge of energy. The alien vessel was massive, far larger than any ship Rhea had ever seen. Yet the Phoenix's assault was relentless, each blast a promise of annihilation. It was a battle not only for the future of humanity, but for the survival of everything Rhea had fought for. Inside the Phoenix's command center, the air hummed with intensity. Rhea's hands were steady on the controls, guiding the ship's movements with the precision of someone who had known battle her entire life. Yet there was something new in her now, something that hadn't been there before. It was the Phoenix itself, feeding off her resolve, amplifying her focus. Together, they were unstoppable. Shields are holding, Vargas reported from his station, his eyes glued to the screens. But we're taking fire from their cannons. This ship is stronger than we thought. I know, Rhea said through gritted teeth. She could feel the Phoenix's energy waning slightly, a subtle shift in its pulse that indicated the alien flagship's defenses were taking their toll. But she wasn't about to retreat. Not now. Not when they were so close. The Phoenix swerved sharply, dodging another volley of plasma fire from Zor's ship, before returning the fire with a massive burst of red energy that shattered the alien ship's outer hull. But the flagship didn't falter. It didn't even slow down. Rhea's brow furrowed. "We need to hit their core," she said, her voice cutting through the comms. "Vargas, can you find their weak point?" Vargas's fingers flew across his console. "I'm scanning their ship's structure. There. The core is heavily shielded, but there's a vulnerability in the lower section. If we can punch through, we can destroy it." Rhea's pulse quickened. It was a risky maneuver, but there was no other choice. They had to take down the flagship, or the war would continue. And humanity with it. She glanced at her team, each of them locked in place, their eyes filled with a mixture of determination and fear. They were in this together, and together they would win. "Full throttle. Take us to that weakness," Rhea commanded, her voice filled with steel. "We end this now." The Phoenix responded instantly, its engines roaring to life as they barreled toward the lower section of the flagship. Zor's ship seemed to sense their movement, and its weapons locked onto them, firing relentlessly. But the Phoenix was faster, its agile movements almost preternatural as it dodged blast after blast. The warship's hull sparkled with crimson energy, dodging and weaving in a fluid dance of destruction. "Almost there," Vargas yelled. "Shields are dropping fast, but we're in range." Rhea's mind was a blur of focus, her hands guiding the ship as though it were an extension of her own body. She could feel the Phoenix, its pulse, its desire to fight, to win. It was as if the ship was feeding off her emotions, growing stronger the more she pushed it. She could almost hear its voice, a soft whisper, urging her onward. "We are one," the Phoenix seemed to say. "Strike. We are the flame that burns all." The voice wasn't mechanical. It was a living presence, something ancient and primal. Rhea nodded to herself. The Phoenix was no longer just a ship. It was an ally, a force of nature that had been waiting for this moment. "Now," Rhea shouted. With a swift, calculated maneuver, the Phoenix angled toward the weak spot on Zor's flagship. The alien warlord's ship fired everything it had, desperate to stop them, but it was too late. Rhea locked her eyes on the target, her heart pounding as the ship's weapons powered up for one final strike. A burst of crimson energy erupted from the Phoenix's cannons, streaking through the void like a comet, slamming into the flagship's exposed core. For a moment, everything seemed to pause, time itself holding its breath. And then, with a deafening explosion, the alien flagship shattered. The energy from the Phoenix's attack cascaded outward, obliterating the core in a brilliant flash of light. Pieces of the massive ship broke apart, its once dominant form now a cloud of debris floating through space. The battle was over, but it wasn't without cost. "Direct hit," Vargas confirmed, his voice barely audible over the comms. "The flagship is gone. We've won." Rhea stared at the wreckage of the alien vessel, her chest tight with disbelief. They had done it. But as she watched the fragments of the flagship float in space, she knew this victory wasn't without its toll. The Phoenix had been pushed to its limits, and there was no way of knowing how much longer it could hold up. "Is it over?" Lieutenant Gray asked, his voice trembling slightly. Rhea took a deep breath and glanced at the remaining alien fleet, still engaged with human forces in the distance. The death of Zor's flagship would send shockwaves through the alien coalition, but there were still enemies out there. The war wasn't finished, not yet, but humanity had just gained something invaluable. A powerful weapon, an unbreakable will, and a symbol of their relentless fight for survival. "No," Rhea said, her voice steady. "The war is far from over. But this is the beginning of the end. We have the Phoenix now. And with it, we'll finish what we started." The Phoenix let out a low, resonating hum, as though it understood the gravity of Rhea's words. Together, they would fight. Together, They would burn through the darkness of the enemy's forces until only ash remained. Humanity's last hope had become its greatest weapon. The debris from Zhor's flagship continued to drift through space, a macabre testament to their victory. The Phoenix hovered in the aftermath, its massive form suspended like a silent sentinel amidst the scattered remnants of the alien warlord's fleet. For a moment, there was silence, an eerie, oppressive stillness. The crew of the Phoenix had done the impossible, but Rhea knew the hardest part was yet to come. "Status report," Rhea ordered, her voice calm but firm, as the adrenaline of the battle began to ebb. Vargas was already working his station, his eyes moving rapidly across the data. "We've taken heavy damage to the port engines, Commander. Shielding's down to 40%. We've lost some secondary systems. Nothing we can't repair, but it's going to take time." "And the rest of the fleet?" Rhea asked, her eyes still locked on the drifting wreckage of the alien ship. "The remaining forces are retreating," Vargas said, pausing to check a readout. "It looks like we've shaken them for now, but it won't be long before they regroup and come back in full force." Rhea nodded. The Phoenix had delivered a crushing blow, but the war had not been won. Zhor had been only one link in a chain of command that stretched far beyond the reaches of the battle they had just fought. There were more warlords, more fleets, and most importantly, there were more ships like the Phoenix, waiting to be discovered. If they were to truly end this conflict, they would need to find every last one of them, and rally humanity's strength behind them. "Commander," Lieutenant Gray spoke up from his station. "There's something strange on the sensors. I'm picking up a distortion in the local space. It's not a warp jump, but it's too concentrated to be a random anomaly." Rhea turned toward him, her eyes narrowing. "Can you identify it?" Gray's fingers flew across his controls, his face paling slightly. I'm not sure, but the readings are coming from deep within the galaxy's core. It's almost like a gravitational pull, different from anything we've seen from the enemy." "A new weapon," Vargas suggested, his voice tense. "Possibly," Rhea replied, her brow furrowing. "Or something else. Either way, we need to investigate." The Phoenix was still gathering itself after the battle, but Rhea knew they couldn't afford to rest. Every second they waited, the enemy could be preparing a counterstrike. The alien forces had shown an ability to adapt quickly, and they had just been given a harsh reminder that no victory came without consequences. "Set a course for the anomaly," she ordered. "Full speed." The crew moved quickly, their hands working in synchrony, the well-trained team clicking into motion like a well-oiled machine. The Phoenix's massive engines powered up again, its sleek form shooting toward the unknown distortion, its engines burning with a ferocity that matched the urgency in Rhea's heart. "Commander, I have to warn you," Vargas said, his voice low and cautious. "The core of the galaxy is highly unstable. Navigating through it could take us into the heart of alien-controlled space. It's a risk we can't afford to ignore." "I'm aware," Rhea replied, her gaze unwavering. "But this might be the key to ending the war. Whatever that distortion is, we have to investigate." Gray's eyes flickered back to his console. "The anomaly's readings are intensifying. Whatever's creating it, it's moving toward us. We may not have time to reach it." Rhea's grip tightened around her command seat. She could feel the Phoenix, alive and pulsing with energy, urging her forward. The ship itself seemed to want to face whatever was coming. The connection between them had only deepened since their first battle. The Phoenix wasn't just responding to her orders. It was anticipating them, understanding her need for answers, for closure. It had become a mirror of her resolve. "We don't stop," she said, her voice cutting through the tension in the air. "We don't retreat. Set course for the heart of that disturbance. No matter what's waiting for us, we'll face it head-on." The Phoenix surged forward with renewed strength, cutting through the stars with ease, heading toward the dark core of the galaxy. The distortion on the scanners grew stronger, its intensity fluctuating in a way that made Rhea's skin crawl. There was something alive out there, something far older and far more powerful than anything they had faced before. The alien forces had been brutal, but they were a shadow compared to what might be lurking in the deepest corners of space. As they neared the source of the anomaly, the ship's sensors began to pick up more strange readings, blips that didn't match any known alien technology. They were deep within uncharted space now, their position growing more dangerous with every passing moment. "We're almost there," Gray said, his voice strained. "Whatever this is, it's unlike anything we've encountered." Rhea looked out into the void, her gaze sharp. The stars ahead of them seemed to bend and twist, as if reality itself were warping. It was almost as if the fabric of space and time was being torn apart, revealing the unknown. "The Phoenix," Rhea whispered, her mind racing. "It's more than just a ship. It's a key to something we've only just begun to understand." The ship's hum intensified, and for a brief moment, Rhea felt a sense of connection so strong that it almost overwhelmed her. The Phoenix was more than humanity's last hope. It was the vessel that would either lead them to salvation or consume them in the fires of war. And now, as they neared the heart of the galaxy's dark secret, Rhea knew that whatever came next would decide their future. The Phoenix cut through the emptiness of space, its powerful engines roaring as they sped toward the heart of the galaxy. The stars ahead twisted in strange, unnatural patterns, warping as if reality itself was bending. The distortion had grown exponentially, now occupying a vast swath of space, a black void within which all light seemed to vanish. It was as though they were flying straight into the heart of an ancient, forgotten storm, one that had been waiting for them for eons. Rhea could feel the Phoenix's pulse, its energy intensifying with each passing moment. It wasn't just a ship anymore. It was alive, breathing alongside her, feeding off her emotions and instincts. And right now, she could sense the ship's own uncertainty, an awareness of the danger they were heading toward. Whatever lay ahead, it was ancient, powerful, and beyond their understanding. Approaching the anomaly, Gray reported, his voice tight with anxiety. It's more than we anticipated. The gravity well's distorting space-time. We might be pulled in if we're not careful." Rhea's grip on the command seat tightened. They were venturing into uncharted territory, and the risk was monumental. Yet, they had no choice. This anomaly, this pulse at the galaxy's core, was too important. If it was what she suspected, it was the final piece of the puzzle. It was the key to not just defeating the alien forces, but possibly ending the war in one fell swoop. "Helm, adjust course," Rhea commanded, her voice steady despite the growing tension in her chest. "We need to stay on the edge of the distortion. No going in too deep." The Phoenix's engines adjusted automatically, its systems working in harmony with Rhea's thoughts. The ship had become so attuned to her that every decision, every command, was executed with fluid precision. Even in the face of the unknown, the Phoenix felt like an extension of her own will. "We're in position," Vargas said, glancing at the screen. "But I'm not sure how much longer we can hold this trajectory. The distortion is pulling us in." "I don't care if we get pulled in," Rhea responded, her voice sharp. "We're getting answers. Prepare for anything." They drifted into the heart of the anomaly, the stars ahead of them twisting, folding, and stretching as though the very fabric of the universe was warping under their presence. It was as if they were entering the eye of a cosmic storm, a place where the laws of physics no longer applied, where time and space collided in strange, incomprehensible ways. Suddenly, the Phoenix's sensors went haywire. The readings were off the charts, flashing and flickering in erratic patterns. The ship groaned under the strain of the gravity distortion, its hull creaking as if it were being pulled in different directions. Rhea's heartbeat quickened as she fought to keep the ship steady. She could feel it. The Phoenix was struggling, but it wasn't about to give up. She wouldn't let it. "Commander," Gray shouted, his voice filled with urgency. "There's something else, something huge on the scanners. It's not a ship, it's something else. Something alive." Rhea's eyes widened. "Alive? Her mind raced, trying to comprehend the meaning of those words. What could be alive at the center of this vast, unstable distortion? What ancient force had survived the ravages of time? A massive form materialized before them, emerging from the depths of the anomaly. At first, it seemed to shimmer in and out of existence, like a mirage in the vastness of space. But as they drew closer, it solidified into something far more terrifying. A colossal structure, so enormous it could block out entire stars, hung suspended in the void, its surface covered in strange, pulsating lights. The Phoenix shuddered violently as it neared the object, its shields flaring in response to the immense energy emanating from the structure. The ship's engines whined, struggling to keep the crew safe as they got closer to the massive entity. Rhea's breath caught in her throat. She recognized it. This was it, the heart of the war, the source of the alien force's relentless assault on humanity. This structure, this living entity, was what they had been fighting against. She could feel it now, the overwhelming presence, the ancient intelligence lurking beneath its surface. It was alive, an ancient being, or perhaps a collective consciousness that had been influencing the galaxy's war for centuries. "Commander, we're locked in," Vargas said, his voice tinged with awe and fear. "We can't break free. The gravity. It's too strong." "Damn it," Rhea cursed under her breath. The Phoenix was caught in the entity's pull. She could feel the ship being drawn in, helpless against the force that was slowly wrapping around them, suffocating them in its embrace. The crew braced for impact as the ship shuddered again, its shields beginning to flicker under the pressure. But then something unexpected happened. The Phoenix pulsed with a wave of crimson energy, its engines flaring with a power that Rhea hadn't felt before. It was as if the ship, her ship, was awakening even further, tapping into something deep within. The structure before them reacted to the Phoenix's presence, its lights flaring and flickering as if it were aware of the ship's approach. And then, the unimaginable happened. The colossal being spoke. Its voice, ancient and primordial, boomed across the ship's communications. It was a language no one on the crew understood. But it wasn't just a language. It was a feeling, a presence, a command that echoed in their minds. Rhea's hands tightened on the controls, her heart pounding. What was this thing? And what did it want? The answer was becoming painfully clear. The war was not what it seemed, and the Phoenix, with all its power, was about to face its greatest test. The voice of the ancient entity filled Rhea's mind, a resonating force that made her blood run cold. It wasn't a mere sound. It was an overwhelming presence, something that bypassed her hearing and spoke directly to her consciousness. The words, or whatever they were, sounded alien, incomprehensible, yet somehow familiar, like a memory just out of reach. "We are the primordial seed. You are the Phoenix." The words echoed in Rhea's mind, and her skin prickled with an ancient, bone-deep recognition. The Phoenix. It wasn't just a ship. It was more. A key, a conduit to something much greater, something far older than humanity, older than the war itself. The realization hit her like a thunderclap. The Phoenix wasn't simply humanity's weapon. It was the one thing that could face the true enemy, the force that had been manipulating events from the shadows for millennia. "Commander," Vargas shouted, his voice strained as the ship groaned under the force of the gravity well. "We can't hold on much longer. The Phoenix is, something's happening to it. It's reacting to whatever this thing is." Rhea's eyes shot to the console. The Phoenix's systems were fluctuating erratically, lights flickering, the ship's pulse becoming erratic. The power surging through the hull was overwhelming. But it wasn't just the ship that was changing. It was her too. Her heart raced in sync with the ship's energy, her body humming with an intensity she had never experienced. She could feel the ship's desire to fight, to burn through the void, to defend. "Brace yourselves," she ordered, gripping the console harder, her knuckles turning white. The strange entity's presence in her mind was overpowering, but she forced herself to remain focused. The lights in the Phoenix flickered one last time. Then everything went dark. For a heartbeat, there was silence, an oppressive and complete quiet. Rhea's eyes snapped open, her pulse thudding in her temples as she stared at the now blackened screens. The ship had powered down entirely, and the strange gravity pull was no longer present. The massive entity in front of them remained, but now it was motionless, as if waiting. Rhea stood, her breath shallow, her mind a whirl of questions and realizations. The Phoenix had stopped. Whatever connection it had with the entity had caused it to go still, like a sleeping giant. And somehow, she knew that the answers she sought were on the other side of this silence. "Vargas," she asked, her voice hoarse. "What's happening? Why did it stop?" Vargas tapped furiously at the control panel. "I'm trying to restart the engines. But, Commander, it's not just the Phoenix. The entire ship is linked to whatever this entity is. It's like it's in our systems, in our minds. I can't explain it, but I don't think the Phoenix wants to fight anymore." Rhea's heart skipped a beat. "What do you mean? We can't just stop." "It's not that," Vargas replied, his voice quivering with uncertainty. "I think it's trying to communicate with us, but not like before. This is different. It's like the Phoenix is listening to it." Rhea turned toward the window. She could still feel the presence, the overwhelming sensation that was now embedded in every fiber of her being. The ship, the Phoenix. It wasn't merely responding to her orders anymore. It was listening too, as if waiting for a signal, for some kind of decision. "We are the primordial seed. You are the Phoenix. Join us. Become one with us." The voice returned, louder this time, its resonance deep within her chest. It wasn't demanding, it was an invitation, an offer. The power to end the war. The power to wield the cosmos itself. Her mind raced. Was this what it wanted? Was this the true meaning behind the Phoenix's existence? Was the ship, her ship, merely the first step in a greater transformation? We need to choose," she said, her voice trembling. "This isn't just about defeating the alien forces anymore. This is about something much bigger. We don't even understand what this thing is." Vargas protested. "It could be manipulating us. It could be." "I know," Rhea interrupted. Her voice was firm, even as uncertainty gnawed at her. "But I don't think it's trying to control us. I think we're part of its design. And if we're going to stop the war, truly end it, we have to understand what that design is." Gray's voice cut through the tension. "Commander, you're not going to do this alone. We're with you. Whatever happens, we'll face it together." Rhea looked at her crew, each of them standing by her side, their faces lit by the flickering screens. They had been through so much already. And now, they were facing the unknown once more, a decision that would either save or damn them all. She took a deep breath and faced the entity, her voice steady as she spoke out loud for the first time since they had arrived. "We will join you," she said, her words echoing through the ship's systems. "But on our terms, we will not be enslaved by your power. We are humanity. We choose our destiny." For a moment, the silence returned, deep and suffocating, but then a massive surge of energy pulsed from the entity. The Phoenix responded in kind, its systems coming back to life as the two forces, one ancient, one new, began to merge. Rhea felt it, a deep, unyielding connection forming. She wasn't just controlling the Phoenix anymore. They were becoming one. The future of humanity was no longer just in their hands. It was in the hands of something far greater. The energy from the primordial entity surged through the Phoenix like a torrent, flooding every system, every neural connection. Rhea's eyes widened as she felt herself expand, her senses stretching out beyond the confines of the ship, beyond the boundaries of space itself. The cosmos seemed to open up before her, a vast expanse of stars and swirling galaxies, all connected by invisible threads. She could feel the history of the universe, the eons that had passed, the civilizations that had risen and fallen. She could feel the pulse of life in every corner of the galaxy. The Phoenix was no longer just a vessel. It was part of the universe's fabric, an extension of something ancient and all-encompassing. She wasn't controlling it anymore. She was part of it, part of the cosmic whole. The ship's systems hummed in harmony, synchronized with her own heartbeat. The connection between them had deepened, more than she could have ever imagined. She wasn't just the commander of the Phoenix. She was its keeper, its partner in the grand design of the universe. And it was clear now that the Phoenix was not just humanity's weapon. It was humanity's destiny. Commander, Vargas's voice broke through the overwhelming sensation, pulling Rhea back to reality. She blinked, focusing on the dimly lit command room of the Phoenix. Vargas, she said, her voice quiet but filled with certainty. We've made contact. The Phoenix is more than just a ship. It's part of something far larger than we are, and we're about to become part of that too. She looked out the viewport, where the entity hung in space like a massive, pulsing star. It was no longer just an alien force. It was the core of the universe's design, its heartbeat, its primordial seed. She could feel its power, its age, its wisdom. It was beyond good and evil, beyond war and peace. It was the creator and the destroyer. And now, it had chosen them. We've received a message, Gray said, his voice cracking with awe. It's from the entity. It's offering us a choice. What kind of choice? Rhea asked, stepping closer to the console. Gray hesitated for a moment, his fingers flying over the controls. It's asking us to join it, to evolve, to ascend, to become more than what we are. It's not a demand. It's an invitation. Rhea's heart raced. She had felt it too. The offer wasn't just to end the war. It was to transcend it, to become something greater, something that could shake the universe itself. It was everything humanity had fought for, everything they had hoped to achieve. The power to decide their own fate, to break free from the cycle of violence and destruction that had defined their existence. But was it too much? Could they truly become something so vast, so all-encompassing? Could humanity evolve in a way that embraced the cosmic forces without losing what made them human? We need to think this through, Rhea said, her voice steady, but her mind racing. This isn't just about defeating the aliens anymore. This is about changing everything. It's about who we become and what we will leave behind. The crew stood in silence, each of them grappling with the enormity of the choice before them. It wasn't just their survival on the line. It was the future of their species, the future of all life in the galaxy. But there was no time to wait. They had reached the precipice of something far larger than themselves, and the universe was waiting for them to decide. Rhea turned back to the viewport, where the entity seemed to pulse in response to her gaze. The Phoenix hummed in unison, as if it, too, was waiting for her answer. We don't have to lose ourselves to evolve, she said, her voice strong, even in the face of uncertainty. We don't have to give up who we are. We can join the entity, but we do it on our own terms. We will choose how we evolve. The entity seemed to understand, its pulse shifting, as if it recognized the determination in her words. The ship trembled slightly, a response to her decision. Rhea knew the time had come. Set the course, she ordered, her voice filled with resolve. We're joining the entity, but we're doing it as humanity, not as something lost. We will forge our own path. The Phoenix's engines roared to life, its systems responding as they surged forward. Rhea felt a sense of finality as the ship moved toward the entity, a deep connection flowing through her veins. This was the moment that would define their future. They were no longer bound by the limitations of their species. They were stepping into the unknown, together. As the Phoenix approached the massive entity, the ship's exterior seemed to shimmer with energy, bathing the crew in a warm, glowing light. Rhea closed her eyes, feeling the presence of the universe all around her, a vast, endless sea of possibility. The universe was vast, and the war was over. The battle for survival had been won. Now, the battle for ascension had begun. Humanity would rise, and it would rise together.